Well, I think by now, a lot of us have seen that wedge of stainless steel that they call the Cybertruck driving somewhere in a neighborhood around us, on the highway by us, somewhere. I mean, I've seen a couple of them now. I've seen them, in a bunch of different wraps, black and things like that. And there's a lot of commentary on that. And so haven't, I've gotten kind of near one, whatever. Say what you will about it, the steer by wire system or the bulletproof fish stainless steel or the rear bumper that might not tow so well. I don't know. Everybody's got commentary on that. However, Tesla and Cybertruck just put out some news that I think, and it's not a hyperbole here, I think is the most significant news that they could release for the Cybertruck. I think it's actually a really substantial piece of information that kind of validates where that technology is headed. And I really hope it gets adapted into a wider usage. And so today, let's talk about. I got a lot to say on this particular topic here. But let's go right into this one here. I got this article. Tesla releases Powershare, bidirectional charging, on Cybertruck only so far. So this is from Electrek. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Yep, Electrek and Jameson Dow put this one out. So thanks to you guys for that. Tesla has just delivered the first Cybertrucks, and with them comes a feature that we've been waiting for a while: bidirectional charging. This is really, really big. I can't understate that enough. I'm going to say that another time. This is really, really big. And I'm really glad that there's certain engineers and there's certain people within the Tesla ecosystem, and particularly focusing on the Cybertruck ecosystem, that really understand how critical this is. Because I'm not exactly entirely substantially sure that Elon Musk even realizes how significant this is, because a few months ago, not even a year ago, he put out a release that basically said, why would we release software to do this? Why would we have the truck do this? Because anybody that's going to be powering their house with the truck, as soon as the truck leaves, their house power is going to go with it, which is very true, in the day, in a normal work day, when it's just, but that's not when you need these things. You need these things at night, in the wintertime, through inclement weather and storms. A lot of times when you're not going to be moving your truck, or you're not going to be needing, your truck is going to be more stationary. So it becomes that significant backup battery. I'll tell you how significant it is, and how it would apply to us, and where this really differentiates itself from something like the F-150 Lightning. From our car, our Hyundai Ioniq 5, which has been a game changer, a lifesaver, nothing short of a lifesaver since we got it last winter. So I could break that all down and go back to the article here. Okay, so let's just jam through this for a second. So Tesla has talked a bit about bidirectional charging in the past, but always seemed a little wishy-washy about bringing it to the market. In its Investor Day presentation in March, Tesla Vice President Drew Baglino stated that the company could have bidirectional charging in 2 years. But CEO Elon Musk immediately threw some cold water on that statement, saying, quote, "I don't think very many people are going to want to use bidirectional charging unless you have a Powerwall. Because if you unplug your car, your house goes dark, and this is extremely inconvenient." No kidding. Yes, that would be extremely inconvenient. And granted, we have 3 Powerwalls as well. That product is awesome, but you don't need it. This isn't, when we're talking about moving the needle toward energy independence and moving the needle towards being proactive about how our energy economy works, you don't need to buy more products to make this product work. You just need to be in a situation where you don't have power. You need to go through a storm where you need to supplement something and get your lights on, get your refrigerator working, get your water pumping. You need critical infrastructure. And when that's the point, you'll take all the power you can get, however you could get it. And we'll keep going through the article here, but the significance of the Tesla battery is, we're talking about our Powerwall in our house. So we have 3 of them. But when you break them all down, a single Powerwall is about 13.5 kilowatts of storage. Now, how much of it you could use, a little dependent on that, but it's about 13.5 kilowatts of storage. We're talking about the truck that's got like 130 kilowatts of storage. It's just an enormous amount. So it's tenfold. Let's keep going through this article here. So I just don't want it to be underestimated how significant accessing this type of power and in a mobile sense, being able to charge it, via the sun, being able to charge it remotely and then bring it back to the place it's needed to the power is needed. I can't overstate that enough. So let's see here. Cold water on that. I don't think very many people want that. We saw that. Now, 9 months after that event, yep, not even a year later, Tesla has released a vehicle that has bidirectional charging equipped. And its branding suggests that more vehicles will have the same capability in the future. That's exciting to me. That's really good news. That really starts to move the needle, like I said, for our energy independence and how we could democratize that power, how we can capture it, how we can convert it to usable power, and how we can bring it to the places that it needs, in particularly in critical moments. Tesla's Cybertruck delivery event today was pretty light on details, and we've had to comb over the website to find out any sort of specs. I did that as well. I'll go over to that in a second. On the website, we noticed one new feature that was completely absent from the presentation: Powershare. Powershare is apparently Tesla's new bidirectional charging feature, which seems to include vehicle to load, vehicle to home, and vehicle to vehicle capabilities. So V to L, V to H, V to V. So V to L refers to the capability to power equipment through 5 outlets, 2 120-volt, 20-amp outlets in the bed and cabin each, and 1 240-volt, that's awesome, 40-amp, that's awesome, outlet in the bed. This can be used for work equipment, camping equipment, or other mobile power necessities. Emergency response, for example, could run air conditioning equipment, heating equipment. The 240-volt, 40-amp, that's a significant amount of power. So this is one thing where it differs. That amount of power and the access with all those different outlets is huge. I mean, what's great is in our house, we have a manual transfer switch. I'll kind of show you how it looks here. This is our manual transfer switch here. So we've got it in our. This looks like our main electrical panel because it's a big panel, but in reality, this is actually our sub panel because our main panel is in the house. And this is the purpose-built solar shed that we created to house the batteries, the inverter, the gateways, and this sub panel. And we have our whole panel rigged up to one side of this sub panel. So this sub panel, one side of this feeds our whole main. And that's important is because when we run our generator with our manual transfer switch, then we're only really able to power up traditionally one side of that panel, of that main breaker panel. And my knowledge of electricity is very, it's not good. it's very primitive. But basically I was told and shown that what you essentially can choose to power up one side of your panel or the other. So when we sub-paneled it out off of our house, we put everything on our house on half of the sub-panel. So that's where you see the main on the top, and then you see sort of the manual transfer switch disconnect, which that switch on the bottom will switch over to whatever source is plugged into the outside of the house. So in this case, we wanted it to be a car. And even before the Cybertruck set out, so for the past couple of years, we've actually been modifying CC. We call this truck CC. We've been modifying CC right here so that we can pull power out of our used Tesla Powerwall, used Tesla batteries. We put 7 used Tesla batteries in this truck and an inverter. And we wanted to do exactly what the Cybertruck's doing right now, is just to be able to pull enough power to run the things on our house that we need to run. And so ours, it's a little more primitive in this sense. And this is a project, I've got a lot to talk about on this, but we really just run an inverter off of our batteries, and we're able to plug that into our manual transfer switch, just like we used to do with the old pull generator that we used to have. And so now we also have the luxury of having the Hyundai, which is the Ioniq 5. And so it also makes it easy. That wasn't available when we were building and designing this house. So we did buy a used one, and that also makes it easy to switch over our power from house power, from Tesla Powerwall power to car power. And so I think it's just critical in those times, especially at night in the wintertime. So we're in October, middle of November now, and we're going to be coming into December. And by, I don't know, first, second week of December, we're going to pretty much use one of our cars to power the house every night and save on our power walls. And there's a few reasons for that. I'm going to get into that. And actually, a couple of reasons for that This particular release from Tesla for the Cybertruck, it solves that. It solves our need to have to do that. So we've got great specs on this thing, 9.6 kilowatts of continuous power. I don't even know. So here's the thing. We couldn't use that if we put, I think, all of our air conditioners on or all of our heats on. We'd be hard pressed to use 9.6. That's a lot of simultaneous power being used. Here's the caveat. Oh, and here's where the Powershare specs come in. Here's the caveat. This is a good point to talk about this. So what the power you need continuously is very different than the power you need instantaneously. And what I mean by that is we have a well, we go to throw our well on, and it needs this surge of power. It doesn't even tell us what it is. It's just a lot. I need a lot. What does it tell the gateway out in our solar shed? It says, hey, I need power. Gateway's like, how much? It's like, a lot. Just give me what you got. And so we don't even really get a good data point. I'm sure I could if I could tap into it, if I was a smarter person analytically, if somebody wanted to come and help us with this thing, we could see, like, it's just such an instantaneous spike, but it's so significant that unless we have a bidirectional charging system, unless we have the capability to meet that spike, how much power, whatever, unless we have a system that could be like, fine, take whatever you need, which is what our power wall, our triple power wall setup in our solar shed can do, is meet the need of something as simple as just the well turning on. And it's like a multi-stage well, so it's a variable speed well. And so as it just turns on, we're talking about fractions of a second. Same with our condenser for our heat pumps or our mini splits and things like that. Just for this fraction of a second, it's like, oh, I need all the power I can get. And so with our Hyundai Ioniq 5, our 2022, originally when that was marketed, and this is a different video at a different time, the car is amazing. I'm a huge fan of the car, and it saved our butt on numerous occasions. But it was marketed with 3.8 kilowatts of output. And 3.8 kilowatts of output, I was like, well, it's curious, what can that run? But in reality, the Ioniq 5 is really 1.9, because we use split phase here in the US, which is going to also factor into this conversation with the Cybertruck and the F-150 Lightning. It kind of that plays into both of those, how those strategically engage and interact and function with vehicle to home or something like that. And so vehicle to load. And so cutting it down to 1.9 kilowatts, there's certain things where it just doesn't, when the well is like, I need all this power, the Ioniq 5's like, that just seems like a lot of work. Seems like a little too much power. And so that's where our 1947 Dodge, so our original Cybertruck, she was Cyber before the Cybertruck was. Again, it's a project. We're working through a lot of little kinks with it too. It's like anything. We're just in the frontier of a lot of this technology. We're in a frontier of a lot of these conversations, and we just got to keep pushing out west with it. And so with the Ioniq 5, we were limited, and then we tried to put an inverter onto our converted 1947 Dodge, and we were able to pull more power out of that, which is awesome. So we were able to pull more power out of that, but we honestly we've half the storage. So our Ioniq 5, so I know it's a lot of numbers here. The Ioniq 5 set up 77 kilowatts of power. It's a lot of power. So then going down the scale, our house, we have 3 power walls. So if they're 13 and a half each, it's that 13 and a half, 27, 40 and a half, 40 and change. Call it 40. So we've got 77 in the Ioniq, we've got 40 in the house, and we have 7 refurbished Tesla car batteries in the truck. So that's 7 times about 5.2, I think it ended up being. So it's called 35. So 77, 40 in the house, 35 in CC, our 1947 truck. Celia, she's named after my Nana. And so you could see where, you start to have variable amounts of power, but some redundancy. But when you look at something like the F-150 Lightning or the Cybertruck, and I think it's in here, let's see if the actual stats are in here, that's like 120 to 130 kilowatts of power. So now we're talking about 3 times as much power as what's in our house. So we get 9.6 continuous, and I don't know if it says like what the total amount is. But But I think part of what this says, the big difference here is the existence of the Tesla Powerwall. The company says that homes with the Powerwall and Tesla's wall connector, which we do not have, installed will be ready to use Powershare without additional equipment. So although it refers alternately to its wall connector and universal wall connector, so we're not sure which one is compatible. So this is all very confusing stuff. So even for me, which I have a basic understanding of how this flows, it's very confusing. This is actually a huge deal because Tesla already has an installed base of Powerwall users who can plug in without having to change anything in their homes. That is awesome. That line already has an installed base of Powerwall users. We're considered amongst those who can plug in without having to change anything in their homes. That is awesome. Lightning users may be hesitant to spend another $4,000 plus just to make their home more resistant to power outages, but Powerwall owners already have spent significantly more money on a solution that works with bidirectional charging capability on the car. So here we go. So this would essentially turn a Powerwall with its 13.5 kilowatts worth of storage into one with 136.5 kilowatts of storage when adding the 123 kilowatt hours of the Cybertruck's battery. Tesla says that Powershare can power a home for over 3 days, assuming the home uses an average of 30 kilowatt hours per day. And then this author here says, reference, my home uses 10 kilowatt hours per day. So they're 2 weeks for the author of this. They could power their house for about two weeks. So that's amazing and very true. And I think from our stats, we're looking at there's a range of what you could use and how you power your house and what kind of energy needs you'll need, you'll utilize. But the average American home is, I think, about 24 kilowatts a day when you spread it out over the course of the year. Our particular usage at the off-grid farm, just our house usage, forget about operating the farm, running any business sort of thing. It doesn't take much, but just trying to isolate, living off-grid as a family. Just we probably range from 10 kilowatts, just like the author did here, to 30 kilowatts or 35 kilowatts or plus when we're charging our car or when we're running intensive heat or air conditioning or things like that. So we really could range from 10 to 40, 10 to 50, especially with the car plugged in. So it really is, you want as much as you can have access to. But when it comes down to having a storm, when it comes down to Hurricane Milton, whatever, something coming through, you're like, you know what? I would just love to keep my fridge on. What's that? What's just keeping my fridge on and my lights on? Internet. I mean, I know I hate to say it now, but for a lot of people, that's a lifeline to the community. So if we're talking about a refrigerator, 0.2 kilowatts an hour, and the lights and maybe the internet, another 0.1, 0.2, we call 0.5 as a total if you have a fireplace with a fan blower on it. So we're talking about 0.4 or 0.5. So that way, over a 10-hour period, that's 4 kilowatts. So let's call it 8 over 20, 10 over 24. That sounds about right. I think you could run on 10 kilowatts pretty comfortably in a day. And so if you're talking about tapping into the Cybertruck and it's 123 kilowatt battery, I think we're blown away by having an additional 77 kilowatts. I can't even imagine what that I mean, it just gives you a lot of peace of mind, especially if you're off grid, if you're sort of dependent on your own production, generation of energy, conversion of power. It makes a big difference. So how is this different than, let's say, the F-150 Lightning? Here's the thing, because we've got a friend of ours has an F-150 Lightning, super sweet truck. These things are all, it's just, again, we're pushing the frontier of this. So it's a lot of figuring out and a lot of confusing terminologies and kind of melting together of different strategies. And so they brought the F-150 Lightning over, and we went to hook it up right into our manual transfer switch. And they call it a dog bone. It's like a little converter. It converts a regular plug into a 240 volt, like a 3-prong plug that is more standardized for those kinds of backup generator switches. So we hooked it all up. We switched it over just like we would our cars or anything, even the generator. It didn't work. Like, how did this thing not work? And so what we realized was that essentially the Lightning has its own GFCI protection. So it's grounded. And what it means is that it's the grounded neutral are bonded together at the main panel, and it's expecting the power that's going into that panel to come back. And because the truck is also grounded, as the house is grounded, it's not receiving that amount of power back. It's getting confused because it's sending all this power out. This is the F-150 Lightning. And when it's not continuously filling that loop and getting that power back, I'm putting out 4, why aren't I getting 4 kilowatts back? I think from my, again, rudimentary understanding on this, don't quote me on this, is that it wants to make sure that that energy isn't passing through, let's say, like a person. Why am I not getting this energy back? And so it's not quite, there's a few workarounds that are electrical technical workarounds, both from the F-150 Lightning side of things and from the panel side of things that I wouldn't want to touch. But that's why you need the additional $4,000, $7,000 system that they upsell you on that to convert. So for Tesla to be offering this conversion that essentially plugs right into your house and gives you this additional 125 kilowatts of power, it really is a game changer. So this could be big for vehicle to home because previously it has been more of a niche application. Totally agree with that. Tesla, having a market already built of houses that are V2H capable, might see much higher usage of this capability. I got to be honest with you, I am not a fan of a lot of things about the Cybertruck. This is awesome. This is one of those things that I'm keeping an eye on this. I don't have neither the money, the capacity, nor the will to buy that truck, but that technology is something that's moving the needle here. There's something there, and as rollouts come through these vehicles, standardization starts to happen, and other companies look to what's been successful. This can only be a good thing. Let's finish this out here. Tesla also says that Powershare will be capable of vehicle to vehicle. That makes sense. So using the Cybertruck battery to charge another electric vehicle. That makes a lot of sense. And I think that's it. As of now, Powershare is only available on the Cybertruck, but the fact that Tesla has branded it with its own name suggests that it will be available on other vehicles in the future. That makes a lot of sense to me. It should be available. If they could, they're a over-the-air software update kind of company. If they could push that through to their other models, Y3, things like that, I can't even begin to tell you the difference that having a vehicle as backup power, clean energy, it's quiet energy, it's renewable in the sense that we power ours from the sun, but when we don't, we'll go to a source where we can then power it. So we can choose the time. I mean, and sometimes it's not ideal, but we can choose the time we want to power, where we want to power it. There's different rates in different places where it could be $15 to charge our Hyundai Ioniq 5 or $7 to charge CC the 47 truck, or it could be double that. It could be $30, $35. It still beats putting I still have a 2016 Dodge Ram. So filling that thing up, even with the gas prices here coming down, it's still expensive. We're still talking a $60, $70, $80 investment when I go to the pumps. And so, talking our range now in our electric vehicles is somewhere between $7 and $30 at the very high end. And granted, we don't get quite the same range out of that. Again, another conversation for another time. But it's really empowering to see that happen. So this is great. I think the advantage my Dodge Ram still has over this, and over CC even, certainly over the over the Cybertruck and over the F-150 Lightning, the one big advantage my 2016 Dodge Ram has is that it can plow. We're coming up in the winter. It's November. It's going to be December soon. Last year we kind of skirted around some major snowstorms, but you still need it. And the year before that, we've had to deal with some pretty significant snowfall. So having a plow on the truck is a necessity for us. And there isn't an electric vehicle that could do that. So I'm banging on that drum, vehicle to load, vehicle to home. Give me something that could plow. And then there's a lot of other conversations we could have from there. So I'll add, let's see, I'll leave us out on this. CC, our Dodge 1947. She's our project car. She's our backup. Now she was our backup battery. Now she's our backup to the backup. But she's strong and mighty, and we're really excited to kind of push the frontier along on how power is distributed, collected, what we can do as a society, as a community, as a family, as individuals to understand how we use our power and how we're sort of bringing it around, how it's changing, how it's changing. We could go charge a 128 kilowatt battery in a truck, bring that back to our house and plug it in and power our house for 2 weeks. And that's real. That actually, I can vouch for that. That can happen. We've powered our house all month, a month straight at night with our Hyundai. So this is technology that's happening, and it's democratizing power in a way that hopefully can transform and empower how we use and feel and come together with our electricity. And so it's exciting. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you got enough power for your day inside and out. I got a lot of other interesting things to talk about. See you on the next one.